Welcome to the PeakDay podcast, where we discuss fertility and NFP with our friends. I am your host, Martha Haney, and today's guest is Amanda Rowetter. Amanda is a degreed nutritionist who loves the idea of evangelizing through nutrition. Her ministry, Temple and Table, combines theological discussion with practical nutrition, celebrating the deep connection between body and spirit with wholesome food, real conversation, and authentic community. Amanda is a regular contributor to the Couple to Couple League Family Foundations magazine and also contributes to the lifestyle and nutrition area of the Fertility Science Institute at fsi.org. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you so much.
How did you get interested in nutrition and cycles?
Yes, so I grew up always wanting to be a pediatrician, actually. And so it kind of evolved over time. I would say I had an interest in nutrition initially and switched over to nutritional sciences as my major in college, my junior year. And as I went through my pre-med coursework and started learning more about how nutrition affects our body, I got more and more into women's health, actually. And that it kind of grew from there. And then my master's is actually in medical science with a concentration in women's health. So it just continued to grow. And I just love my partnership with Couple to Couple League as well, to just educate more and more on that.
Let's talk a little bit about your pre-med studies, and you had a couple of challenges there, didn't you?
I did, yes. So I applied to medical school several times, and I was on the wait list at one point for a school and things like that. And it's just a very kind of grueling process to interview and apply. And I, after not succeeding in getting admission after a few cycles, I thought, okay, I really need to step back before I continue on this path and continue pursuing this. And I realized that it had been so long since I had stepped back and actually prayed about what God wanted for my life. And so as I started to do that and really turn it over to God in prayer, I kind of felt this desire to be a pediatrician. As sad as it was a loss for me, of course, but in prayer, I just felt it kind of release from my heart. And I thought, okay, what do you have now for me, God? So that was kind of the scary part, was having that dream kind of be released from my heart a little bit.
What did you learn about God's plan for your life in that phase?
I think that what I found is anytime that there's been what seems like a setback or a failure, anything like that, it really is an opportunity that God uses to bring us closer to Him and draw us closer to His heart. And for me, I learned a lot about trust and surrender. And I probably, like many people listening, have this desire to control and to plan. And what I found is God's dreams and His plans for our lives are bigger and better than we can do ourselves, if we just allow Him to work within our lives and allow Him the space to work. So this all didn't come until I truly stepped back and was like, okay, God, what do you want for my life? I haven't ever asked that really in a real way.
So did you grow up in the faith?
So I did grow up in a Catholic household and went to Catholic school all through high school. And I had really great friends that I think supported me in my journey of faith. And I had a really beautiful personal kind of conversion, if you will, the summer of my junior year going into senior year of high school. I went on a Kairos retreat, and long story short, God just met me with this Bible verse that was really beautiful. It's still my favorite Bible verse to today, John 14:18. And it was, I will not leave you orphans. I will come to you. And I lost my dad at a really young age. So it impacted me there. And then also within the course of the retreat, I was feeling sort of abandoned by God. I hadn't felt His voice, hadn't heard it. And so it was just really beautiful. And it was contained in a letter that was written well before I was even on the retreat. So that was just a really profound experience for me, where I thought, God knows my needs and he knows them before I even know them. And that started a personal relationship with me and God. A lot of times we can go to mass and things like that, but until we have a really personal encounter with the person of Jesus Christ, and to hear God's voice personally speaking into our lives, that's when I would say I first really, really heard it. And then in college, um, I went to a public university. I went to University of Florida, and didn't have as much community support from my friends necessarily. I didn't necessarily seek out Catholic friendships. And so I would say that I always went to mass, and I never really fell away from the church, but I would say my faith started to grow really again in a really personal way when I was in my mid 20s, once I was in Nashville. So God never leaves us, though. He's always there in the background working, and he desires for us to have, just grow deeper in relationship with him, is what I found. So
Let's talk maybe about your fertility health
sure.
through through your young adult years, and how that maybe affected your trajectory, for your vocation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always had a very challenging first day of my cycle. I was never diagnosed with PCOS or anything like that, but I wouldn't say also that I pursued education around what I could do around my cycle, but it was very debilitating for me. I missed work, I missed school, really bad PMS symptoms, anything that you could think of. A lot of really bad cramping, nausea. I was, down for the count, in the first day of my cycle. So my cycles were very rough. And the thing with challenging cycles is that, at least I found for me, that it really gives you a challenging relationship with your fertility in general and with your cycle in general if you have a negative experience around them, which I always did. And as I learned more and more about nutrition, as I got more and more into my studies and women's health, I thought, wow, my nutrition is really tied to my fertility and my cycle, and I can really affect this in the choices that I make every day. And so I think I saw changes in my own cycle as I focused more and more on it. And I realized how much uh, there's just so little education. I think there's more and more. But when I was growing up, it wasn't even something I thought of. And so I think it's wonderful that Couple to Couple League has more resources. And I just encourage young women to learn as early as you can, and for moms to encourage their daughters to learn more and more about their cycle and be educated on it, because that really is the key to you doing what you can to affect it yourself.
What advice would you give mothers
Mm-hmm.
in relationship with talking with their daughters about their fertility?
I think that there is a great opportunity for moms to really enter into these more sensitive conversations with their daughters. And I think nutrition is a great gateway to enter into those sensitive conversations. And I think it's a great opportunity too for young women to, as they're entering into that independent phase, I think it's a really beautiful way for mothers to start talking to their daughter about these kind of sensitive topics, and then also to empower them to make those great choices. They're with their friends. Parents have a little bit less control over what their teenagers are eating and those decisions that they're making. And I think the more and more that you can talk about, well, how did that make you feel when you ate that? Or, to encourage them to talk to their friends about it, and get their peers kind of perspectives from it, and to just really open up that conversation. I think starting the conversation is the hardest part. And then for you to be educated together, maybe you're not as educated on how nutrition affects your cycle, or you can share with her your experiences with your cycle. I know my mom also had not as severe issues, but she did have issues around her cycle similar to what I had, and it just helped me to feel not as alone, and it helped me to be able to talk to my own mom about that.
Was this something that you shared with friends as you were growing up, like either in high school or college or as a young adult? Was it anything that was a conversation?
Yeah, I think especially at different stages of our lives, right? When we're first, getting our cycles and things like that, I actually feel like I could talk to them easier than I could even talk to an adult about it in some ways, because it just felt, when you're a teenager, you think, I just want to talk to my friends about this. I don't want to go to my parents. Um, but I think that it is brought up, and it's brought up in college when women are starting to be more pressured into, being physical with people they're in relationships with and things like that. And I think that's where um, educational resources are extremely important, because if you don't seek them out, I'm such a big proponent of you educating yourself, as long as it's quality resources like Couple to Couple League offers. You want to make sure it's coming from a quality source, but the more you can be your own advocate and educate yourself about it, talk to your providers about it, seek out, gynecological support and nutritional support as well from local dietitians or nutritionists. For young people to be educated around their cycle or to get information, I think an ideal would be some kind of course or book or video series, something like this, where it's coming from a quality source and it's giving them quality information. On college campuses, I think it would be wonderful if it were integrated into some kind of orientation, or if young people even just sought out a coursework on fertility or even just base nutrition. And I think that those are great places to start. But again, you really have to take control over your own education, your own awareness of it. But just kind of cautionary tale around the source that you're getting it from too. And I would also encourage young people to learn about theology of the body. Our church has a wealth of teachings on this and a lot of knowledge on it. So I think sources like Couple to Couple League and our own church, look up theology of the body. And those are two great places to start.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This has been a
Yeah.
joy, Amanda.
Oh, it
Thank
was
you so
lovely.
much for talking with us.
Thanks for inviting me.